Users don't really view it as data. It's themselves. It's their information. It's their lives that they're putting on there. But as far as advertisers are concerned, it is the holy grail of data.
Pushing the boundaries of that holy grail of data was about to get Zuckerberg in trouble again. In December 2009, he revamped the privacy settings for Facebook's then 350 million users. Unless users individually restored their settings, previously private information was now available to everyone on the internet.
Many people just sort of took that default and somewhat inadvertently allowed a lot of their information to become public. And many privacy advocates believe that they didn't explain that or disclose it sufficiently.
A firestorm of complaints from users and consumer groups forced Zuckerberg to backtrack again, sparking concerns in Congress.
We are here today to urge Facebook's creator and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, to revisit this new policy as soon as possible. We believe Facebook should reverse its policy to begin exploring guidelines so users know upfront what's happening.
Adding fuel to the fire was the surfacing of still more instant messages. Business Insider published messages they said showed a friend asking then college-aged Zuckerberg why people shared their emails with him. Zuckerberg's response was curt and profane.
You know, I asked him point blank about it, and he was very embarrassed by the fact that he had sent these IMs.
Less than 1 month later, he was put on the hot seat in a memorably awkward interview at the All Things Digital conference.
Do you feel like you're violating people's privacy?
You know, there were real learning points and turning points along the way in terms of building things. If I knew what I knew now then I hope I wouldn't have made those mistakes. But I can't go back and change the past. I can only do what we think is the right thing going forward.
You know, anybody who's ever kind of doubted what Facebook is about or want to question his integrity, I mean, they can keep pointing back to that, right? To that instance of like, I can't trust that guy. That is going to be our check on him for as long as he remains CEO, you know, and in charge of that company. It's going to be like, okay, you're not that guy. Well, prove to us that you're not that guy.
Chris Hufnagel, the director of privacy programs at the University of California, Berkeley, believes Mark Zuckerberg purposefully pushes the envelope on privacy.
In most situations where a company does something that's unpopular, they have blowback. They lose the ability to do something. But in Facebook's case, we have something I call blow forward, where they take 2 steps forward, there's some type of public reaction, and they just take a little step back. And so over time, they've been able to open up profiles more and more.
Mark does not think you should be a different person at work than you are at the bowling alley, in bed, at school. You know, he basically thinks you should be consistent across all these environments. So that's a very radical view for many older people.
By the time Mark Zuckerberg turned 25 in 2009, he had accumulated so much notoriety, wealth, and power that author Ben Mesrick had written a book about him and the founding of Facebook.
This story started for me at an email I received just out of the blue to my website, and Eduardo Saverin was angry. He wanted to tell his story. He had co-founded Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, and then he said had been kicked out of the company, and he felt betrayed, and he wanted to talk.
Saverin talked to Mesrick for 6 months about a lawsuit he'd filed against his former Harvard classmate for diluting Saverin's share of the company. According to Mesrick, Facebook found out Eduardo was talking to him.
And they essentially settled with Eduardo. Nobody knows for sure what happened, but what I've heard is he got 5% of Facebook, and he had to sign an agreement that said he would never speak to Ben Mesrick again.
But Mesrick already had enough material for his book.
My proposal had leaked out on the web. Aaron Sorkin saw it. Scott Rudin saw it. So Sorkin immediately signed on to write the screenplay, and everything happened very quickly from there.
The pre-release publicity surrounding the movie also seemed to force Zuckerberg to go on a PR offensive. The previously press-shy Zuckerberg was suddenly everywhere.
If you build something great, that's what people care about. When people don't care about what someone says about you in a movie.
He gave Oprah a tour of his house in 2010 and announced on her show a $100 million donation to public schools in Newark, New Jersey.
$100 million.
$100 million.
The social network opened in wide release on October 1st, 2010.
People want to go on the internet and check out their friends, so why not build a website that offers that friends, pictures, profiles? I'm talking about taking the entire social experience of college and putting it online.
Zuckerberg complained about his on-screen portrait as a ruthless, socially challenged power geek with no friends. He said there were factual errors in the script.
They frame it as if the whole reason for making Facebook and building something was because I wanted to get girls or wanted to get into some kind of social institution. And I mean, the reality for people who know me is I've actually been dating the same girl since before I started Facebook. They just can't wrap their head around the idea that someone might build something because they like building things.
Though he initially said he wouldn't see the movie, Zuckerberg ended up taking his entire staff to it. He even showed up on Saturday Night Live.
You ever end up seeing the film, the Social Network?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. Oh, thanks. And what did you think?
It was interesting.
Thank you to the Hollywood Foreign Press for this extraordinary honor.
The Social Network won a Golden Globe Award for Best Dramatic Picture, as well as 3 Academy Awards.
First Tunisia, now Egypt. What's next?
But to an increasing number of people around the world, Facebook wasn't just a Hollywood movie. It was affecting real life. In late 2010, demonstrators started taking to the streets in Tunisia and later in Egypt to protest their repressive governments. By this time, more than 70% of Facebook's 500 million+ users lived outside the United States. In Egypt, one flashpoint for the anger was a case of police brutality. At the center of the protests was a Google employee who ran a Facebook page.
Wael Ghonim was the manager in Egypt of a page that was a memorial to this guy who had been beaten, tortured, and killed by the secret police. And that group became very, very large, many, many hundreds of thousands of members during the period leading up to the revolt against Mubarak. Facebook expedited the ability of people to express their dissatisfaction, which clearly sped up the process of these revolts.
The governments of Tunisia and Egypt fell. Protesters expressed their gratitude to Facebook on the streets. One named his newborn daughter Facebook. And Wael Ghonim sang the social networking site's praises on CNN.
I want to meet Mark Zuckerberg one day and thank him. I'm talking on behalf of Egypt. This revolution started on Facebook when hundreds of thousands of Egyptians started collaborating content. You know, like we would post a video on Facebook. It would be shared by 50,000 people on their walls within a few hours.
Facebook itself was very quick to try to distance themselves from that political activity. I mean, obviously, they supported it, but they don't really want to be seen as a tool of change because obviously Facebook wants to be active in regimes like China. They don't necessarily want themselves viewed as a tool of insurgency.
Zuckerberg has taken on a personal goal that might help him with his mission to connect the world. He says he spends an hour a day studying Chinese, which could potentially help him gain 1 billion new friends.
It's the fastest growing and the biggest internet market in the world. There are hundreds of millions of users, and his mission is incomplete if he's not in China.
Mark Zuckerberg's power had never been greater, and once again, speculation grew that he would take his company public. Despite enormous pressure, Zuckerberg has been hesitant to pull the trigger and cash in.
100 years, 200 years from now, what's going to be more important? The money, right? Or the fact that he has had this kind of impact? Or the fact that he's, you know, executed and developed and helped evolve this thing that is more than just a technology site, and it's more than just a website. And so I think that's why it's never been about money, and it's never been about status.
When companies go public, it's a tremendous strain on the management. And in fact, on top of all of that, when you go public, you open yourself up to even greater government scrutiny.
Aware of that scrutiny, Facebook has amped up their presence in Washington with a team that includes several former White House aides and influential Capitol Hill insiders.
Political official after political official will tell you, if you are absent from the debate, you're likely to be the person who kind of gets cut out. And so presence in that debate, particularly when Google and Yahoo and Microsoft and a number of other very large players are spending a lot on lobbying, is a mistake.
Today, several Facebook founders, including Mark's friends and classmates, have left the company to start new ventures on their own. They've been dubbed the Facebook Mafia. But much of Silicon Valley talent is on their way in. Top programmers are leaving companies like Google to be a part of Zuckerberg's momentum. And Facebook and Google, the two internet behemoths, are competing in other ways. Ryan Single is a staff writer for Wired magazine.
Facebook and Google's relationship is pretty simple. They just don't like each other. They're really, they're competing cultures. Facebook was sort of young, brash, wild, and Google is like, an algorithm company. Like, these are guys that, like, any problem, there's got to be a way that they can write a little algorithm that'll fix it.
It's clear that Google missed the rise of social, and Eric Schmidt has admitted to being flat-footed around Facebook and around social. They've tried a number of things, most spectacularly the Buzz social network. That just hasn't worked.
Then, in May of 2011, Facebook was embarrassed when it was revealed that they had launched a secret attack on Google.
Facebook is doing damage control after revelations it hired a PR firm to plant negative stories about Google.
Facebook claimed publicly it was not a smear campaign, but the exchange revealed just how vicious the competition has become.
The whole Burstyn Marsteller flap was really just an in-your-face expression of the animosity that has sprung up not only between these two companies, but almost the personal Shakespearean drama that's playing out between Google and between Facebook, which frankly has a lot of former Google execs who would like nothing more than to supplant their former company.
You can't underestimate how driven Mark Zuckerberg really is. He says his mission is to make the world more open and a better place. His mission is also to be number one, right? He wants to be, inscribed on granite above Bill Gates, I think.
He is well on his way. Like Gates, another Harvard dropout, Zuckerberg is a fierce competitor. He moved quickly to vanquish rivals Google and Twitter with a stunning acquisition in April 2012.
Instagram is off the market in an instant. Facebook likes the photo sharing app so much it's paying $1 billion for it in cash and shares ahead of its IPO. But the app is free and has little known revenue. Still, Facebook may need Instagram more than Instagram needs the money. Instagram has become a photo-sharing competitor and a social network all its own.
It was considered a radical and defensive move.
Facebook cannot take any chance that any other social network oriented toward photos could really get traction that would compare to theirs. And I think, so there's a preemptive quality to this. Also, I think almost certainly Google was interested and probably maybe forced Facebook to act now.
1 month later, Facebook finally went public in the largest IPO on record for an internet company, making Mark Zuckerberg a multi-billionaire.
This is an awesome moment.
The CEO in hoodie and sneakers retained tight control of his company with 57% of shareholder voting rights.
Facebook has literally changed the world. We've moved from the country to the village to the town to Facebook. It's just getting started, too. I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
For a site that's able to move from the dorm room to a site where, my 80-year-old mother and myself and my chiropractor and my third grade class all reunites on the site and we all have something to talk about, it's an achievement.
Zuckerberg is just as visionary as Steve Jobs. He's going to prove just as influential as Bill Gates. But he's not dealing with a piece of gadget. He's not dealing with some program. He's dealing with our lives. He's dealing with our identities. So that's why I think we're all going to have to kind of keep him in check, in a way.
We make decisions at Facebook not optimizing for, what
is going to happen in the next year, but what's going to set us up to really be in this world where every product experience that you have is social, and that's all powered by Facebook.